Hello, everyone. How's it going? We're going to give everyone a few minutes to log in. Let's see. I'll check back in a few minutes. Someone's in. Okay, well, we're here. Hopefully, you're still here. I am going to, while we're waiting, I'm going to make sure my phone notifications are off. I finally don't have a car horn as my text beeping notification anymore. Like, my son thought that was hilarious to do to me, but right, we're just gonna give people some time to pop in. Oh, I'm gonna try and get my dog out. Come on, Lizzie, let's go outside. Yeah, she knows she's not supposed to be in here. Well, you guys just might get to hang out with my dog Lizzie and me. So that's just the way it'll have to be. Hey, Sharon. Hey, you're young. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm probably not, but hello, welcome. We're gonna just wait a couple minutes before we jump into our fun today. All right, let's see what else we got coming in. See any comments yet? But it just turned 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock Mountain Time. So we'll give everyone just a few minutes. I'm gonna reposition my camera just a little bit. It's funny how on each streaming service it can be like a little bit different when it pops up. Hi, Diane. Oh, hope you guys are having a good day. It is a busy day here for me. I've been getting ready for this live and working on all of our bare root stuff for next year. So it's gonna be a fun year. You guys are gonna have fun. Sharon says, we miss seeing you. I know, it's been a while between traveling and just summer. It has definitely been a while. So, all right, well, why don't we get started? It's 3 o'clock. So as part of our Gypsy Rose series, we started a couple months back. I'm going to be planting a brand new cutting flower garden in front of my home around my turret. I'm doing this inside today because it is insanely humid outside, which is the weirdest thing to say in Utah because we've had the driest, hottest summer I've ever experienced. The last few weeks have been upper 90s, low hundreds, even in the shade. So I was hoping on this one to show you, remember last time we talked about weeds and how to prep the area, but you really shouldn't sort of spray or do anything like that until it's like in the 80s. So it's just been too hot here to really get that project started, but we're going to keep doing the planning process together. And I have kind of a fun surprise today that we're going to do. Let's see. How's your drought situation? It is horrible here. It is the worst drought Utah's ever recorded, especially I'm in central Utah and southern Utah. My little tiny vegetable garden is barely hanging on for dear life. It makes me so sad. It's been a really tough year for gardening here in Utah and in the Intermountain West. But we're starting to get monsoons here, so that's why it's humid outside. That's why it's so weird. It's been so dry. Yesterday it poured rain for like 5 minutes. That's how rain happens here. It like pours for 5 minutes and then nothing forever. But it kind of feels like maybe we're gonna get another little downpour today. So that's why I'm inside and not outside. Such a strange thing. I'm like, wow, it might rain today. So, okay, so the next stage of the planning for me, you guys remember there's a couple things we did, right? I introduced you to Gypsy Rose. I talked about some other plants I want to put in it. Some of my initiatives in this area is it has to be drought resistant. Some of you probably don't have to ever worry about drought resistance, but here in Utah, that's a vital part, especially where I'm putting it, because it's in full sun up against, I have a light kind of yellow brick home, and it just radiates heat. So heat tolerance, drought tolerance, and deer. Those are the things that are really important to me. So plant selection is really important. But the next most important thing is amending my soil. So the other thing we did together is, remember we did a little at-home soil test. And we did the mason jar test. We did the little nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium tests together, and we found out some really interesting things. I wasn't too shocked by it because I've been in the area for a long time. I know what the soils are like. I've seen lots of soil tests for soils locally, but super high pH here, high salinity, high salts. I have very heavy soil, which you're going to see here in just a minute, with very little organic material. As you can imagine, in the desert, not a lot of organic materials falling and incorporating into the soil here. It just has not been that way for millions of years. Interesting thing about Utah, though, it used to be a lake and it used to be rainforest. You can go and see huge petrified trees, which we love to do that kind of stuff. So it's funny how at this time in the Earth's life, Utah is a desert. So I know that I need to amend my soil. I've actually tried growing roses in this spot before. It was literally like, I'm just going to throw them in and see what happens. Well, guess what? They died. And I'm a pretty good gardener, and I was like, wow, something's really wrong. So I thought, oh, I'm just going to do something basic. I put 4 inches of mushroom compost and mixed it into the top 6 inches of soil. The next year I planted a few roses, a tree, and I did a lot of annuals. The annuals did great. Rose, once again, did not do so good. So after the soil test, it was really important for me to understand what was happening, because I don't want to spend time, money, and effort on a place where roses and plants are not going to survive and thrive, right? So let's go back to some of the anatomy of a rose, and we're going to talk about your soil structure and how to amend in-ground planting. So in the past, I've talked about like potting soils, what's good when you're planting bare roses, like finding a great potting mix. Today, we're not talking about that. Today, we're talking about amending for in-ground soils. It's very different, and the products you use are very different. And we're going to do a little experiment today. You guys are going to do it with me to help me choose which is the best amendment for my soil type. But before we do that, let's go into a little bit of anatomy of a rose. You guys have probably heard, when you add compost, you should mix it in just 6 inches of soil, right? Many plants, most plants, especially annuals and even perennials, and some shrubs and berries like blueberries, very shallow root system, rhododendron, very shallow. Roses is not that way. And it's the key to understanding how to be successful. And it's the key why I failed. So I have a dead bare rose here. Yes, I had killed this rose. I put it behind my garage and completely forgot about it. Of course, the 100-degree weather baked it. It was just sitting out. But I'm going to use it because it's really good for an anatomy lesson. Okay. So this is an own root #1 rose, grade 1 year. I have this grading stick. Let me tell you about these grading sticks. So this is something I picked up when I was a sales rep out east. I worked for a company called Pred's Corner Farms, and this was from Imperial Nurseries. It was, at the time, they were a huge competitor. They're no longer in business. They were sold. But nurserymen carry grading sticks with them, and this is a grading stick. So in the landscape world, when landscape architects are saying, I want boxwood 26 to 32 inches high, nurserymen have to go out all the time and check their heights and update their availabilities so that when landscapers are purchasing material, they know what to order. And so this is a typical nurseryman's grading stick. I'm going to use it because it's long and I don't know, I kind of like using it. So I want you to take a look at the anatomy of a rose. I'm going to come up here. Okay. Look at how the shape and the way that the roots go. Where is it the widest at? Is it up here? Or is it down here? It's down here, right? In fact, the majority mass of the roots are always going to be between 6 to 18 inches. And that's a really key part. Let's show you where 6 to 18 inches is on this rose. Okay, here's 6 inches. Let's see, and 18 goes all the way to the bottom. So really from here down is the most important place in your soil profile in your garden. That's pretty shocking, huh? Are there feeder roots in the top 6 inches? Absolutely. Is there as many? No, there's not. It's just not the anatomy and the structure. Now, different roots, different roses can grow in different ways. Some of them, like multiflora, does kind of spread out. Other certain roses have really fibrous root systems on the top. But I would tell you in general, most roses, you need to make sure your soil profile between 6 to 18 inches is the healthiest place in your soil. And that goes against a lot of things you read on instruction bags and manuals, like, we'll just work it into the top 6 inches. The reality is the top 6 inches is not where it's going to take up the majority of its water and its nutrients, okay? So we got to keep that in mind when we're thinking about how does our soil drain, what soil type do we have, how much do we need to put in, right? A lot of times the instructions you see on a bag might say, add 3 inches, work it into the top 6 inches. Well, guess what? We've got to work it down as deep as we possibly can. Ideally, 12 inches is the space, right? You need to be a foot down when you're amending your soil as much as possible, and even deeper if you can. So generally what you want to do, so there's a couple ways you can amend your soil. I'm going to be doing an entire soil amendment in my entire bed because I'm going to be fully planting it. If you're planting one rose, you can just simply amend around that rose. Make sure to go at least 6 inches below the bottom of the pot. But ideally, if you can dig down to 18, that's where you need to make sure that's where all your water and nutrients, 6 to 18 inches below the soil line, is so important. Okay, so you can amend just immediately around the rose and beneath the rose. But in my case, because I'm putting a whole new garden bed in, I'm going to be adding a lot of compost and tilling it in and trying to work the whole area. And that gets expensive. And I want to make sure to pick the right amendment at the right quantity. Okay, because this type of prep work, this little thing we're going to do today it's like less than an hour. This little 1 hour little experiment I'm going to show you today will save you hundreds of hours later and lots of money, right? You don't want to spend your time and money being unsuccessful. Okay, so one of the things we're going to talk about today is tilth. And tilth of your soil is basically like the texture and how it drains. It's so important, especially for roses, okay? Because you need a good tilth 6 to 18 inches down. I have a bunch of these jars. These are only 10 inches tall. I wish I could find 18 inches. I should have maybe ordered them online. But the philosophy is the same. I'm going to show you how amending my native soil with different types of amendments affects how water flows through it. You know how you ever gone to a museum and you see like the ants, like the clear side? You're going to get to see that today. So let's get started. So I have a bucket here of my native soil. It is so heavy. It is insane. It's an insanely heavy soil. And I have 4 different classifications of amendments. Now, where you live, usually bag soils are very created locally because it's super expensive, as you can imagine, to transport huge bags of soil across the country. Normally, wherever you're at in your area, you're all going to have different things. So today's not about recommending a specific brand. It's about telling you about kind of 4 classifications, okay? First, we have pure compost. This is the thing of the gods. Look how dark, and it's so soft, and it's evenly, like the sizes of everything is really even. Look how dark that is compared to, well, I'll show you here. Actually, why don't we're going to fill one of these glass beakers with just my native soil. Because this is messy. Okay, because I want to show you how my native soil drains. And you can do this too. These little beakers, like I got them at Walmart for like $3. Just go to the floral aisle. They're nice because they're straight-sided, and so you can watch the flow of your water really easily. I'm telling you, learning about your soil is the best thing you can do as a gardener. Because when you take care of your foundation, everything is going to get better. When you have bad soil, it's a cascade event. It costs time, money, frustration. Okay, so I'm gonna try and fill everything up to about an inch below the top. Okay. All right, so here's my native soil. I'm gonna come up closer to you so you can see just how light that is. Oh my gosh, this thing is so heavy, it's crazy. Compared to this, which is so light, just look at the color difference, okay? Because I'm sure you've seen compost. Really good compost is dark, very dark, okay? The other one we're going to talk about is cow manure. So there's so many different types of cow manure products out there. You may have a farmer who has horse manure, cow manure, chicken manure just sitting out there. It's super important with manures, no matter if you buy it bagged or you're getting from a local farmer or a local landscaper, and you make sure it's fully rotted. Like, I can smell this and I smell no manure. That means it's been fully rotted. If it's still, if it has a really strong odor, and we talked about this before, but it means it's not fully composted and you could burn your roots. So it's really important that you don't put hot manure, but sometimes they call it hot manure, in. So we're gonna look at this one. This is a bagged manure. They mixed in like some shredded forest products. So we'll see how that functions. So you can kind of see the difference here between this manure product and this compost. Look how much darker the compost still is, and look how big the pieces are of this. All right. The other one we're gonna do is topsoil. So topsoil is the same way as cow manure. There's so many different qualities of topsoil that you can purchase. Sometimes it's literally feel like you're lifting up like a bag of like mud when you buy topsoil. It's really cheap, bad stuff. This one is considered to be a little bit better, but they mixed peat moss and a whole bunch of forest products in with this for this topsoil mix. Look how big and chunky that is. Okay, let's compare it to the compost. See, this is compost, this is considered topsoil. I've seen topsoils where it literally looks like you just went out to the beach and grabbed whatever they could find. The next one we're going to talk about is garden soils. So remember how we talked about there's a difference between garden soil and potting mix. And garden soil is meant to be used to amend your soil. It's not meant to be planted directly into. So you're going to see the word garden soil all the time. It's not a potting mix. Some of them you can use it like in a raised bed and plant directly in, but generally garden soils are meant to amend soils. So let's take a look at it. It looks kind of similar to some of the other ones, but here it is versus compost. And here it is versus my native soil. Very different colors. So let's do a little experiment. So generally, when you are amending your soil, you want to mix it half and half with your native soil. So what we're going to do is we're going to take each one of these. We're going to do half of my native soil and half this. So we're just doing a 1-to-1 ratio. So I'm going to pour my compost in first. Oh, actually, before we do that, because I did experiment with this earlier, and it's crazy how long it took. Let's talk a little bit, before I start mixing, I want to talk a little bit about water and how much water roses need. We're going to dive more into this in the next one, but this experiment with the water is going to show you how important the tilth of your soil is. But what we're going to do, sometimes you hear like, oh, plants need 1 inch 2 times a week. Well, what does 1 inch of water mean? So we're going to look to see what 1 inch of water looks like in each one of these different mixes, okay? How you do this is you want to pick your measuring cup to be about the same circumference as the soil that it's in. And you simply put 1 inch of water in here. This is a mason jar. There's a little dash on here that's approximately 1 inch. But just for the sake of everything being similar, I'm going to go up to that dash. We're going to say that's about 1 inch of water, okay? Some of you may have rain gauges. You don't really need rain gauges in Utah. There is no water here. But some of you probably have rain gauges. Okay, so let's look what happens to the native soil when I put 1 inch of water on my native soil. Let's see, I'm going to make sure you guys can see this good. That out of the way. So it's kind of fun in these clear, straight-sided pictures that you can see how far the water can percolate down through my native soil. You should do this to your own native soil as well, so that you understand how well does your soil drain? Does it drain good? Does it drain bad? Is it holding on to a lot of moisture? So we're gonna let that sit for a little while. It's still kind of bubbly, okay? Because it takes a while, this heavy soil. It takes a little while for it to go. So the next one we're gonna do is let's do compost, okay? Compost can come in all different ways. You can make your own compost, of course. I love to use mushroom compost. This one happens to be a compost made from old vegetables and produce extras. I really like it. The texture is really nice and it's really dark. Okay, so we're gonna mix half and half of the compost with my existing soil. And then we're gonna put 1 inch of water and see what happens. We'll be able to compare all these different things. So let me get it to about the same amount. We'll mix it in here. Okay. I'm gonna take out some of these really big, chunky pieces. Trying to make the little experiment as clean as possible, as similar to each other as possible. Okay, already I can tell how much lighter this is gonna be. And like the color immediately changed. The texture is already better. I can already tell. It's way better. Okay, so let's fill up our jar with half and half compost. Water over here for a second. So there's all sorts of different composts out there, like I was saying. I've used mushroom compost in this bed before. I only really had enough to put 2 to 4 inches in spaces, and I tilled it into a depth of maybe 6 to 8 inches. And it definitely helped with all of my really shallow rooted annuals. It did really well, actually. But because the soil profile is so bad, so deep, I'm gonna have to amend it deeper. So let's take a look what happens, okay? Here's along with compost. And to make it you wanna make it about the same depth as each other as possible. And all of you are gonna have different access to different types of bulks, fertile compost. So it's good to experiment. A lot of times in bulk landscape supplies areas, they'll actually allow you to take free samples. So just take an hour, figure out what works best with your soil. Okay, now we're gonna let's take a look what happened here with my native soil. Can you see how far down the water went with 1 inch? Let's measure it. Okay, 1 inch of water, and it's deepest, I would say on average, it's like 4.5 inches. Is that good enough for roses? No, it is not. Let's now do 1 inch of water in our compost and native soil. Let's point this down so you can kind of watch. Okay, we'll let that sit for a little while. Do its thing. Look at it. It's already almost down to the bottom. Isn't that crazy? That's wild. Okay. So that is compost. It's already down twice as far as my native soil. The same amount of water. Interesting, right? Okay. Now let's do cow manure. I think this one is a lot chunkier. There's a lot of not composted, shredded forest products in it. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects it. Whereas compost, if it's good compost, it's not going to have big chunks. A good compost should have really even texture to it to be considered really a good compost. Okay. So we're gonna mix, now we're mixing cow manure, half and half. This is a bagged cow manure that I got, like I said, that has some mixed forest products in it. Sometimes you'll have this, sometimes you don't. So let's mix this up a little bit. There's definitely some bigger chunks in here. And at first you might think, oh, chunks are okay. But, let's see. Okay. Now let's fill our cow manure half and half a jar. And maybe after I do this, I'll look to see if there's any questions. So if you guys have some questions, we'll take a little break and I'll go up to the computer and we'll take a look to see what questions you have. And then we'll do the last two. And then we'll talk about what I'm going to do for my garden. Okay, we're almost there. It's got to put a little more in. You can already tell this is like huge chunks of things. Very different color. But I'm going to show you this up close. See all those air pockets? I don't know if you can see that. Oh, there. Do you see? See all those air pockets? Air pockets that big are very bad. You obviously have to have air pockets. You need to have oxygen in your soil, but when you have large spaces like that, what do you think happens? I wish I could see your faces and we could talk. Yeah, the roots that grow through those dry pockets dry out. Water and nutrients have to be exactly against the root rhizosphere, which is like, it's this special place that scientists make this immediately adjacent to the root, right? A root has to have contact. If it doesn't have contact with the soil or the moisture in the soil around it, it's going to dry out, just like this one did. Okay, so let's see what happens with an inch of water with cow manure. Okay, look how fast it went down. Look at that. It's like, ooh, boom, it's already to the bottom. Okay, let's see how our compost is doing. Look at our compost. No too many big spaces, pretty even in there. Let's look at my native soil. Holy cow, this thing's heavy. Look at that. Same amount of water, not even past 6 inches. Let's look at the cow manure. Look, it's already all the way down. And look at all those huge holes in spaces. Okay. All right, let's take some questions. It's been raining the other day here in Georgia and my garden is well watered. Oh, that's so good. I'm so glad that you guys don't have to worry about water. Gosh, that's so cool. Where fungi is a symbiotic relationship with the roots. Yeah, exactly. Love your video. Yeah, you guys took all the rain out there. Okay. Depends on the microspace and the macrospace. Exactly. Great point. So it's important to have some of both of those, right? Like you want to have a mix of different spaces. But it's important that you don't have big spaces, right? That's really important. So let's do the next one. Let's take a look at what the next one looks like. The next one is topsoil. This topsoil in particular has a lot of peat moss amended in it, which is interesting. I personally am not a fan of putting peat moss in your soil. I think that if it ever gets dried out, it's really hard to rehydrate. So I'm already not a fan of this one, but doesn't mean it's not the best one, right? The only way you're really ever going to know is when you do this. It's the only way you're ever really going to discover is if you just do a little tiny experiment. So let's do half and half my native soil, and this is a topsoil that has big, huge, chunky pieces of some sort of forest byproduct. Sometimes it's lumber byproduct, just even worse. Okay, so let's mix this up good. We're gonna put it in our glass jar, And then we're gonna pour our inch of soil on it. And we're gonna take a look. You guys are gonna help me decide what to do. All right. The other thing, while I'm filling this up, I want to talk to you about soil tests. So the other thing you can do if you're buying in bulk, which I'm going to be doing, I'll be buying probably I don't know how many yards. I need to figure that out. It's going to be a lot. If I want my roses to survive well, I've got to go deep. And I'm going to make a commitment one time because I don't want to plant it again, right? You can ask for soil tests. A really good landscape bulk company will provide soil tests of the products they have and current ones. It's really important you do that because I've used some bulk products that are absolute garbage in my day. And I've learned the lesson the hard way. So don't do what I've done and just say, oh, they say it's good for flowers, let's just use it. No, ask for their soil tests. They'll either have it posted or they can email it to you or it's on their website. That's a really good indicator of if it's a good quality soil. Okay, let's do an inch of water. This is our topsoil mix. Let's take a closer look at it. Let's say there's not as many huge spaces. Well, maybe about the same. Okay, obviously soils settle, right? Especially after you water them. And some airspace is not bad at all. Okay, there's about an inch. Let's see what an inch does with half and half, a bagged topsoil product. Okay. Interesting. That one's going a little slower than the cow manure did. Well, maybe not. Actually, I would say that's wet the whole way around in a very short period of time. That's interesting. Okay, the last one we're going to do is garden soil. This is probably the most common bagged type of amendments that you'll find. You're going to see the words garden soil all over the place. It's also very expensive because it tends to have more compost than other stuff in it. So this one does have a really nice texture to it. It has a little bit of like forest byproducts, but not too bad. But buying a garden soil in a bag versus in bulk can be very different. So don't think that they're the same thing. You need to go and look and touch and feel whatever soil you're going to purchase in bulk before you really commit. Because no matter what the bag says, you gotta open it. So let's say you're just going to do a couple, grab one bag, grab a bag, do this little experiment, and make sure it's good. Just because it's pretty on the outside doesn't mean it's good on the inside, or it's good for your soil. So always just do the little tiny bit of prep work. It'll save you so much time. Okay, let's fill up this garden soil one, and we'll put the inch in, and then we'll go back and look at everything and discuss my thoughts. So for my garden, for the Gypsy garden, you know, most of the plants, the deepest roots of the plants I'm planting are roses. I'm going to be planting a lot of perennials, which in general are more shallow rooted, except for some ornamental grasses. Ornamental grasses tend to have really deep fibrous root systems, especially the native ones I'm going to be planting. But they're so hardy and tough, you don't have to worry about them as much. So whatever I decide to do healthy for my roses is going to be perfectly wonderful for everything else. Okay, so let's do our inch of water and our half and half garden soil. So once I remove all the weeds and the grass, I'm going to figure out what my soil amendment needs to be. And then I'm going to work that in as deep as I can. I have a tiller. This one it's kind of interesting. Let's see. Yeah, that went down through really fast. And yet, see how there's still some at the top slowly going down in? Yeah, I would say that's good. There's not as many big holes in this one. enough that it can absorb and make sure to fill all these places in. That 1 inch of water is going all the way down. But look at my native one still. Let's add another inch of water to my native soil to see what happens. Okay. Okay, there we go. We're gonna let that, it's soaking down really, really slowly there. All right, so what do we do? Which one do I select? There's a couple different things that should tell you. Number one, you're gonna have a budget, right? Let me move this up a little bit because I'm like, my head's cut off. You're gonna have a budget. You know, I always tell people the thing you should invest in the most money in your gardening is your soil, because it's gonna save you money in the long run. It just will. When you have a healthy soil profile that's using half of the water, half of the nutrient, it's going to use half of everything. Also, something that's healthy and full of like organic material and nutrients, you're naturally going to have earthworms come, you're going to have a really healthy soil micro biome. So, you know, this garden is important to me. I'm going to be putting a lot of money into it's a permanent landscape. So this is a situation where I think I'm going to probably pick the best I can. Sometimes if it's smaller or just annuals, like before I only did a few inches on the top. Now that I'm going to be planting permanent ones, I really want to pick the best one. So I am going to go with a straight compost. And here's why. Either compost or garden soil. I think the cow manure is just too big of chunks. I just think that's gonna cause problems at first. Now, all of these, this is the cow manure, all of this will break down, right? It is over time. But when you first plant something, it's not. It's gonna take a while for that to break down. I also worry about using manures, like how evenly things are mixed in. Topsoils, you know, this bagged one is, yeah, see, there's just huge macro spaces in here. You can literally see the fog. I really like how the garden soil mixed well and the compost. So either one of these, I think, would work really well. So if you find a couple you really like that work with your soil, then what? Now what do you do? Then it comes down to what can you afford and looking at that soil test. Does it have does it have some nutrients? Is it high, low? Is the pH high, low? Those are the next things of decisions that would be made. I already knew what I wanted to do before this. I just wanted to show it because I've done like a little bit of all of this and I always have the most success with compost, always, especially when you have an even tilth to it. So I am gonna be adding compost, most likely a mushroom compost. This was a bagged compost here, and I really like this compost. This would be great for small areas. It'd be insanely expensive for large areas, but I can get large quantities of mushroom compost locally, and I'll make sure to do this test, but I've used it before and I really like it. I'm just gonna do more of it and deeper for my roses. Okay, look at this. My native soil is still trying to drain. Isn't that crazy? That's 2 inches of water and it's still not down to the bottom. It's so, so important, your soil structure. So, all right. So the next step is now that I know which one I want to use, now I need to figure out how much I need and how much should I put on the top because how deep do I want it to go? Once again, sometimes that comes down to budget. I would tell you 50-50 is ideal, especially in my circumstance where I have really poor soil, very little organic material, if any, mostly weed seeds. And so I'm gonna bite the bullet, and I am going to probably add 7 to 9 inches of that, and then mix it in so that I can get it really good down to 12 to 16 inches. I think that's probably good. That's probably as deep as my tiller can probably go. I have a friend who has a deeper tiller and we might try and do that. So So yeah, so let's look at this like native soil up next to the rose. So this rose will be planted about here, right? Look how much is not getting water with 2 inches of water. That's how different it can be when you amend your soil properly. Look how beautiful that is. I wish these beakers were 18 inches tall and I could tell you, hey, you really need 2 inches of water in this type of soil. You're never really gonna know that until you experiment yourself. So next time we're gonna talk about watering in particular. What am I gonna do in this garden? How do I know what drip emitters to put on and how much to put on? So we're gonna be doing some fun with that. But today I mostly just wanted to go over how I select in-ground amendments. So let's take some questions. Let's see, what do we got here? I love seeing this experiment, so very helpful. It's interesting. Let's see. Do you guys have any questions? Let's see. I'm nervous of tilling after my knee surgery. I tore my patellar tendon and vertical tear in my meniscus. That's how I tore. Oh, Mallory, I feel for you. I've had my knee replaced. It is not fun to garden anymore. It's very hard. That's why I'm excited to do a permanent, more perennial garden than less annuals, because I can do the work once and hopefully enjoy it for years. And I just want to do it once, right? Like I want to add some things and keep, making it interesting, add a new rose here and there, add a new perennial here and there. But in the end, I want to do the work and enjoy it for years to come. So let's see, budget. I don't know what that word means. Looks really cool. Hi. Yeah, it helps so much when you mix it with your native soil. And remember, your soil is way different than mine, I bet. Every single person in this chat has a very different soil profile. This is such an easy thing you can do at home to really understand, like, do I need to add anything? If your soil test says that you're good on nutrients and you've got good drainage, maybe you've got a wonderful soil. I do not have that though. What is your preference buying in bulk? I like buying in bulk because it's cheaper and it's more convenient. You don't have to have all the bags to dispose of. But sometimes bulk products aren't as high quality as some bagged products. So that's why I always ask for the soil test of any bulk product just to make sure, and go out there and grab samples and feel it. Like once you get to know amendments and you touch all these, you're going to know what's good. You're going to understand what a good texture feels like. You love the picture? Oh, thanks. I got this on a estate sale. I don't have any roses in it today, but all right. Is there any other questions? Let's see. So if I were to be amending the soil deeper, only around the rose bushes, about how wide around the bush would you go? That's a great question. R.D. Finis. Let's talk about that. That's a really, really good question. And we'll definitely dive into that in a later video when we're actually planting in. But generally what you want to do, let me grab, in fact, I brought a pot to show you. Let me turn this a little bit. Sorry, I keep moving it around a little bit, but not exactly for this. This is one of our estate pots. One of the things I wanted to show you guys today, the reason why our estate pots, why I love these for roses, because as we just talked about, roses need that 6 to 18 inches is its sweet spot, right? These are a really specific pot to the West Coast because they are really deep. This is almost 12 inches deep. With the actual soil profile, it's probably 11. So 6 to 11, there's 5 inches of this is such an important area for roses. That's why we love these. That's why we love our estates. That's why they get so much height on them. Because it's height, flower power, how many canes you have is directly related to your soil mass, or excuse me, your density of your roots and how many roots you have. So if you were to just plant this in the ground and just amend around it, what would you do? So generally the rule of thumb is you want to take this and you want to dig it at least twice as wide. Okay, so let's say you got an estate pot. Our estate pots are roughly 10 inches. So you're going to dig a hole 20 inches wide, right? So you're going to do 20-inch wide hole. This is 20 inches right here. And you're gonna wanna go, now with roses, okay, it's so funny. I was just helping install a landscape up at our local church's temple here. And was helping a crew plant a whole bunch of different types of plants, all different shrubs and trees and perennials and grasses and sedums and of course roses. We put some rugosa roses up there because it's insanely dry and there's so much deer pressure. Rugosa roses tend to be a little bit more deer resistant. And they were planting it like right at the same plant depth. I was like, no, you gotta go deeper. So rose is one of those plants that it's okay to go deeper on. In fact, it's a little better to go deeper on. It's okay, they'll root and they'll become stronger. Unlike a fruit tree that you would never want to put the graft union, because trees are grafted, roses are budded. A graft is when you have more than one bud eye on a plant, and a bud union is just one bud. So roses are budded. What's my point? So you want to put the level of the top of the soil at least a little bit above the top. I suggest, depending upon where the rose is in the pot, I have always suggested, no matter if it's budded or own root, and there's a lot of controversy around this, is that you plant this crown at least 2 to 3 inches below the soil. Okay, that's where that should be. It might be sticking up in the pot. It might be here in the pot. You should plant it here. Okay, so really, how deep do you dig the hole? You should do it at least 6 inches below the base of the plant that you're planting in, because you want to amend that as much as you can. You want to be 6 inches out almost in every way. Okay, and then you mix half and half, because whenever you're planting a commercially grown rose like our estate roses, it's coming in the perfect soil. Your soil is not perfect. You need to have a transition zone. Okay, it's one way you can save some money, where you're just amending around it. So it can go from that to that. But remember how roses tend to grow. Look at the structure. Now, will they grow outward here too? Yeah, they will. You'll get some feeder roots out here, but they're going to be their bulkiest here. They have a very downward facing, angling root system, right? So deeper is better than necessarily wider. Okay, so it's really important that you dig it wider and you plant it deep. I hope that answers your question. The guy from the YouTube. Let's see. SA Rogers. So I have new topsoil and pre-existing roses, and I just bought a yard of compost. For those already in the ground, would I try to dig around those pre-planted roses? You can try and gently work it into the top few inches of the soil. You wouldn't want to disturb your roots too much. That's why doing it at planting is so important, because it's really hard to amend anything deeper once it's done. You don't want to disturb it too much, can you? You can. I would say be very gentle and just scratch it into the surface. As you add more and more compost and mulch to the top, it's eventually going to work its way down. But it's easier to do when you plant. But you can do that, absolutely. You always want to be adding organic material on top all the time. It's so important to keep that soil healthy. So let's see. Any other questions? If not, we're gonna, I think that's all. I don't see any more. Let's see if I have any other messages here. Okay. I hope you guys learned something today. If there's anything you take away from today, don't get yourself too caught up in, oh my gosh, I have to. If there's one thing you learned today, I hope you learned that roses need 6 to 18 inches. That's where they need really good, healthy soil. It's right through here. And that roots matter, soil matters. And if you do this one thing, if you do a little bit of prep work, you're going to be more successful and you'll save yourself time later. So if there's no other comments or questions, I think we'll let you guys go. Tune in next time. Oh, you got to tune in tomorrow for our live show, our live shopping with Gracie. We have a huge lineup of some really fun stuff. So we hope you join us. If you haven't joined us for a live shopping event yet, it's fun. It's you can purchase right during the live, and we have awesome deals. We have some new products tomorrow, new sizes of products. Got some things out of Gracie's own garden again, and some really good numbers of them. So we did more this week because we're learning as we go. It's our third live shopping event, but we're really excited. So we hope you join us tomorrow. That's Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific is our next live shopping event. And I'll be back in 2 weeks from today, and we're going to talk about drip systems. We're going to talk about watering. Now that I know how I'm going to fix my soil, next I got to think about how am I going to water my soil? How am I going to water my plants? So I hope you join me next time for drip systems. And if there's no other questions, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for coming. I appreciate it.